Aloha everyone, my name is Natalie Ediger and I'm from the Master's Program in Strategic Communication. Welcome to my capstone presentation on the influence of ethnic social communication on the cross-cultural adaptation of international students in Hawaii. Don't worry, I'll get into the terms in a second. But to start off, a very short overview, so I'll start with a brief theoretical framework and then jump right away into my actual research. And in the end, I will also address some limitations and future research opportunities. So when I was a student in the US for the first time, I'm originally from Germany. I spent multiple months in the US and I realized in the end that I didn't really learn that much about the US culture. Nor did I have a lot of American friends. In fact, all my friends were from Germany. And I was also a student in London and South Korea, in New York, now in Honolulu, and I observed similar patterns in other international students. They love to stay within their own cultural bubble. Now, this own experience and also the observation now became my motivation for my thesis. I wanted to analyze how the interaction with home culture experiences affects cultural adaptation. Or to express it in a more academic way, my research question was, how does ethnic social communication influence the cross-cultural adaptation of international students in Hawaii? Why ethnic social communication? It's very important to understand the term as it's specific to Kim's cross-cultural adaptation theory, and the theory also guides my entire thesis. There, it refers to exactly what I just described, the communication with co-nationals. It can happen either through ethnic interpersonal communication, which is the direct interaction, and ethnic mass communication, which is the consumption of media from the home culture. That's important because these are the two independent variables of my study. Now, in the theory, ethnic social communication is mentioned as one of the factors that may slow down adaptation. So my goal was to find out how it affects the adaptation of international students. Which brings us to the methodology. I already introduced my two independent variables, and I conducted a quantitative analysis to determine statistical significance based on a survey instrument. So I wanted to analyze the influence of those independent variables on 5 dependent variables based on Kim's cross-cultural adaptation theory. So these variables basically describe how individuals adapt to a new environment and also to which degree. I had 3 steps in my analysis, although the first step was the most important. I developed 5 separate regression models to determine the relationships between the independent variables and the dependent variables. Then in the second step, I also analyzed or added the variable of time spent in Hawaii to see if there was a difference between students who have been to the US for more than 6 months and students who have been to the US for less than 6 months. And in the third step, I also compared to culturally dominating groups. So in this case, European and Southeast Asian students. I had 125 participants, mainly from HBU and mainly from Germany, Norway, and Japan. But all in all, as you can see, the charts are very colorful. So my sample was pretty diverse, both in terms of nationality, and I also had students from various institutions. What did I find out? So the regression models were statistically significant in 3 cases. More specifically, the variable of ethnic interpersonal communication had a pretty strong negative relationship with acculturation, deculturation, functional fitness, and psychological health. So in other words, students who communicated more with co-nationals also indicated lower acculturation, deculturation patterns, a more negative relationship with the environment, and lower overall well-being than students who communicated more with Americans. On the other hand, the second independent variable, ethnic mass communication, did not show any significance. I also couldn't find any significance regarding the variable of time spent in Hawaii, and there was a statistical significance between European and Asian students with regard to the stress experience and with regard to acculturation, deculturation patterns. So Asian students indicated a higher stress experience at the beginning of the stay and also higher acculturation and deculturation behaviors. What does that mean with regard to my research question and considering previous literature? So since a negative relationship was found in 3 cases, the overall assumption that ethnic social communication may slow down adaptation could be confirmed, at least with regard to interpersonal communication. However, it was interesting that the mean values for every variable were still pretty high. So despite this negative relationship, certain adaptive changes still occurred. And this could be explained in a way that the interaction with co-nationals did not result in a so-called dysfunctional fit, but more in ignorance towards the local culture. So students adapted certain behaviors, but they are still not fully immersed in the host environment. Another term for that would be alternative or hybrid individuals. So individuals who are integrated yet separate. Now, institutions can use my results to optimize cultural programs. So there was a negative relationship, and the interaction with the host environment should definitely be more encouraged. Although I reached my research goal, there were, like in most studies, various limitations. So I just want to point out one crucial limitation. That's the fusion of the Hawaiian culture and the US mainland culture. So the scope of my research did not allow to separate that, and future researchers should definitely consider the cultural distinction. Also, my overall sample size was still pretty low. Nevertheless, in future research, the limitations of this study could be addressed, but also similar studies can be conducted in different host environments. Now, please keep in mind that that was a very summarized version of my research. So if you still have any questions, I have a more detailed PDF version uploaded, or I hope to see you on Friday at 1:45 to answer any remaining questions. Mahalo!